join me in a quick invocation, we'll get started. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time to join together and celebrate and honor those who serve our community. Lord, we just thank you for our first responders and in particular those that we honor this morning for their service. And just may their service be an inspiration to us to continue to look for opportunities where we can serve and make an impact in our community. We thank you for the officers that are represented here. We thank you for their hard work and diligence on behalf of the police and fire, and for the way that they keep us safe in our community here in Lake Highlands. Thank you for this club. I thank you for the members. Thank you for the commitment to service that you've given each one of us. And we just ask that you bless all of us here today, those who aren't able to join us. Be with those in our elected officials, both at the national and state and local levels. Bless those who are serving for the protection of our country, both domestically and abroad. And be with us in all that we do, and may everything that we do be pleasing to you. In your name we pray, amen. Good morning, Lake Highlands. It's good to see you this morning. Welcome to our honored guests. And before we get started, I see at least one person that I'd like to introduce. Do we have any other guests on the Zoom with us today? I thought I pretty much recognized all the names. All right. Well, I'm glad everyone was on pretty good behavior this morning, because we have with us from the Texas district, our district president, Michelle Kimry. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is our quarterly police and fire meeting, which I'm quite certain that you'll enjoy. It's always a club favorite as we honor our local first responders. Announcements. Community grant applications are open, and our presenter this morning, Bill Boyd, is gathering those up and preparing them to present to the board at our March meeting. So I think we have a March 1 deadline somewhere along in there for those. So if you can think of something that would be deserving of a community grant, please submit an application or talk to someone you know who might want to submit an application. We'd appreciate that. Scholarship applications are out, and Mr. Barone is preparing that awards presentation. Mark your calendars for May 14th. And that's about it in terms of substantive announcements for the club. I noticed on social media this week the article about John Turner in the Dallas Morning News. If you didn't have a chance to check that out, it was quite a nice article, and having known John's family for a long time, it was kind of great to see the write-up about his background and Jim and Jenny and all them. So check that out when you get a chance. I do see that Principal Jones is on the Zoom, and Miss Jones, if you have an update from the school that you'd like to share, jump right in.
Sure. Good morning. Just a typical week, but we're very proud of Lonnie Jordan for being one of the finalists for the Tom Landry Award. So that was huge. And then I met with some leaders yesterday, our student council seniors and our senior class officers. And I always say, if you want to know how your school is really doing, ask a kid. And so they were very honest with me, and I appreciate that. And so very eye-opening, just looking through the kids' eyes. And so we're excited to maybe just make some changes, do some tweaks based on some of the things they told me. So that's all.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
It looks like Councilman Magoo is also online with us. Adam, if you'd like a minute now or at the end of the program, just let me know and jump in if you'd like. All right, we'll give him a little bit during the program, maybe catch an update from him at the end. All right, any other announcements? Raise your hand, jump in, scream and holler. 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, as I mentioned before, we've got our Police and Fire of the Quarter awards this morning, and presenting will be our Director of Community Service, Bill Boyd, and I will turn it over to him right now. Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, sir. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. So it's my privilege to get to do this award this morning. I've had a chance to visit this week with both of our recipients, and looking forward to hearing what they have to say this morning. One of the things that definitely came across with talking with both of them was passion for their job and for helping this community out. We've seen, I think it's kind of appropriate. This is on, the last meeting of the first month of this year. 2021 is definitely picking up where 2020 left off, and we have our first responders there having our backs and, keeping our community safe and well. So as the pandemic races on, highway construction, and then with the police, we've seen in our neighborhood this past month, one of our club members' wives was one of the victims of the cell phone mugger guys, and the cops have got those guys off of the streets now. So I think it's really appropriate that we do this on, the last meeting of the first month of this year. So we're going to kick off first with the fire department with their honorary Miguel Garcia, and I believe that Lieutenant Quintero is going to introduce him. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I can. I believe our captain that's writing up his chief just got a first alarm fire, so he's not available right now.
Okay, great. So if you'd like to kick us off, I would appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. First of all, I want to say good morning to Lake Highlands Exchange Club. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for recognizing, police and fire. Being a former recipient of the first quarter award is something that is very motivating, and something that a lot of us strive to look forward to working in Lake Highlands. The nominee that I nominated this go around that our chief asked to nominate naturally was no doubt in my mind Miguel Garcia. He came to me about a year and a half ago here to Station 48 that's located near the intersection of Plano and Northwest Highway. And he's my driver engineer. He's been on the department for a little over 13 years, almost 14 years. He is also a paramedic and also boat certified, Marine certified, and has several certifications under his belt. A little bit of history about him. He is a Dallas native. He he's a Dallas native, and since been over here, he's always taken care of everything that needs to be taken care of at the station. He's a second in command, and whenever I'm off, I know I can always rely on him to take care of what needs to be done. His passion for the job shows when he loves to take rookies under his wing and show them the way and show them the ropes of what the fire department is all about, and also what the citizens' expectations are for the Dallas Fire Department. Miguel Garcia also wanted to note that, I wanted to know about Miguel Garcia is that in the past, I know a lot of us are aware of the line of duty deaths that happened back in 2015, I believe it was, with the 5 police officers that died in downtown Dallas, and he was one of the medics that was there on scene. They're pretty much at ground zero and provided service and care for one of the officers. Unfortunately didn't make it, but he was there and transported one of the officers to the hospital. His dedication and his love for the job shows every day because he's always enthusiastic and he always shows up. And what can I say, he's just a epitome of a firefighter. So I'm glad to have him, and I'm very fortunate to have him, and just glad that he was able to be recognized with you guys. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, sir. So Miguel, congratulations. We're happy to honor you this morning. So we're going to try to do a little bit of Q&A via the Zoom machine. Hopefully it'll go okay. So if you'd unmute. So Miguel, so you're at Station 48, which means that you get to see the best Kroger in all of DFW on a frequent basis. So
yes.
Yeah, so whenever you see that giant silver van there, that's me picking up additional provisions. It's about 4 times a week. So you've been with the department about 14 years. How long have you been at Station 48?
About going on 2 years now.
Okay. And before that, you were down in South, right?
Yeah. the most of my career, I was down south, over 33s and 15s, which is over in the Oak Cliff area.
Cool. Which is where you grew up, correct?
That's correct. Grew up. I've been there since I was 4 years old, so that's pretty much my home. That area.
Yeah. What's kind of fun is that, last quarter, both of our honorees were California transplants, and this quarter, both the guys are from North Texas. So that's great. What inspired you to become a firefighter? Well,
it's just been a lifelong dream of mine. I mean, since I was a kid, I'd see the engine, and actually, I remember one or twice that the fire department came to the school, show and tell, and just started talking to the guys, and I just knew that was something that I wanted to do. Kind of, it's just always been in me to kind of help people, and I know it's a cliche, but that's pretty much my motivation. And then, of course, later on, I realized all the perks is, of being at a fire station and the schedule. But I think primarily for me, it's just helping people.
Excellent. And so you are a driver engineer. Which apparatus are you in charge of?
The pump, the engine, not the ladder. The ladder is, of course, the one that has the ladders on the side, the larger one. I'm actually the fire pump the one that brings water.
Cool. So I have to brag for just a second. It took Torres 3 years to get the to get which apparatus is what down, and I got it after my second quarter. So I guessed correctly with them, and Miguel was impressed. So hey, so how is driving that big truck on Northwest Highway in Dallas?
It's not too bad, except whenever during the peak hours, there's a lot of traffic, so it can be dangerous when there's that rush hour. But for the most part, not too bad. Not too bad.
So, how has COVID impacted your world as a firefighter?
It's been very stressful, both at work and at home. It was one of those things that it's just been, the entire year has been one thing after another. It's just been the longest year 2020 has, to the point where I just overlooked that my parents contracted COVID. Luckily they did fine. They did get them pretty hard, but my grandma did not survive. So she did contract COVID and passed away this last year. And at work, just having to do that extra caution every time with all the unknowns and the ever-changing things of COVID. So it's been stressful, no doubt, but I think the department has been trying to do the best to protect us, and I have to say I'm proud that they've what they've been doing, and it's just, yeah, it has been stressful. It has been a stressful situation, but I think we'll be fine. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's definitely a testament on y'all's flexibility and just dedication to the job to push through this, because it's been a mess, everywhere, but y'all live it.
Yeah.
So last two questions are kind of a bit open-ended, but what is one thing that you wish the public knew about your job and what y'all do?
Our job is pretty diverse, I have to say. You hear fire and EMS, and you just think medical emergencies and great fire, but we do pretty much everything. I mean, emergencies are not always what people would think of an emergency. I mean, one person's emergency is different than the other. So we respond to pretty much everything and anything, and to be quite frank, is we're happy to be there for everybody. So don't hesitate to call us if you have any need. Call 911, call 311, and they'll be able to send somebody over or try and help you figure out the situation. Around here, it seems like we get a lot of just help somebody stand up, get back to their bed. So that's kind of what we do. That's their emergency at the moment. So I'm proud to say that we're able to do that for the community, and more than happy to be of service.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And then the last question is, and this is the one that I gave Miguel and didn't get an answer to on purpose, is what can this club and our members do to help support the department in y'all's house?
Just this right here showing your support for us is more than enough, and I truly appreciate that. It shows appreciation that you have for us, and that alone is everything. So I just want to say thank you for it, and just to continue support.
And we can give the city councilman a hard time to make sure that raises are in the budget too, right?
Great. Yes.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, Miguel, right now is when you would typically hear thunderous applause, and I would hand you a plaque, which we will get passed off in a COVID-friendly manner later today. But okay. Driver in Engineer Miguel Garcia. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Next up is the police department. And so we don't have record of prior recipients, but as long as I've been in the club, I think we may have a record for our youngest officer to be recognized. So this is Officer Andrew Peace. So is someone from the department on to introduce Officer Peace?
Hey, this is Sergeant Valentine. I will be doing that. And please forgive me, I am still en route to the office now. So Officer Peace is a 3.5-year officer. He has come to this department and just really shines as far as amongst his peers and his supervisors. With his 3.5 years on, he was actually selected to be part of our crime reduction team on a special assignment. The crime reduction team, for short, we call CRT. They go out when you have a problem area. They have the ability to focus on that area, to work the area, because we don't have them necessarily answering calls at that time. He was very young to be selected, but he was selected because of the hard work that he had done. So even it being temporary, once he got over there and he really shined a light in the unit, put in some good work, his sergeant and lieutenant actually decided to keep him. So he has not been released to go back and answer calls. He is released to fight crime and continue in that capacity. He actually, we can congratulate him on being newly married. So he's starting his police family as we speak. Having a wife and getting used to that, it's a different world being an officer, especially then once you bring a marriage into the whole work life aspect. But Officer Peace is just always bettering his fellow officers, always trying to work to improve things, always trying to find a way to basically, lack of a better word, catch the bad guy. So that's exactly why he was nominated, and especially as young as he is on the department with 3.5 years.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. So I've got an echo. All right, I'm going to mute real quick and come back. All right, is the echo gone? Good. Okay. So Officer Andrew Peace, good morning, sir, and welcome. Are you on? Yep, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine. Thank you. So, most of the questions are one of the first questions that we like to ask is, where people were before they were in the Northeast, but you got assigned to the best part of the city right away. So where were you before you became a police officer?
I was actually a server at the Razoo's, the Cajun restaurant.
Absolutely.
Beginning, yeah.
Yep.
75. I was there for probably 4 years. I was there a while.
Excellent. And where did you grow up?
In McKinney.
Excellent. So we've got both sides of the Metroplex from north to south represented this morning. So one question, and this is one I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. But one of the challenges that we've seen with the department is having to recruit against the suburbs for officers. You are from the suburbs and decided to join the big city police department. What drove the decision to be part of Dallas as opposed to being a Plano officer or a Irving officer?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I grew up watching, cops and Dallas SWAT, and I wanted to be a cop forever, and I wanted to go do police work. And to do police work, you kind of need a see with issues and crime. So I've always wanted to be a big city cop, do big city cop stuff. So the smaller agencies never really appealed to me because while what they do is very important in keeping their own communities safe, I knew that Dallas would have more opportunity to get more experience, do more things, and help more people. So it was the only city I applied to when I was 21, got hired, and no intention of leaving. So it's a good city to work for, a lot going on.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about your role within the crime reduction team?
Yeah, so basically, in a standard patrol capacity, is the kind of officer who, if there's calls to 911, they would be dispatched to that location to address a specific issue in the moment. And if there were not calls holding, which in Northeast is rare, they would maybe get time to do proactive stuff like traffic stops and pedestrian stops. But the point of CRT is they don't answer calls ever. They're specifically targeting issues or areas. So if you have chains of crimes, whether it be burglaries or robberies or violent areas, we are tasked with either locating suspects, identifying suspects, addressing crime trends or areas. So we're more of targeted policing to address specific issues. We have different resources, whether they be covert cars, or we should have more greater ability to, over a greater span, address specific issues.
Excellent. And I don't know if you can say this. I should have asked you this when we talked the other day, but what specific areas in Lake Highlands do you guys work? And if you can't say I can't say, and that's perfectly cool.
So CRT is still assigned at the division level.
Mm-hmm.
So Northeast CRT, each has its own CRT unit. We can move around the city, but for the most part, we are responsible for the Northeast division, which means we move everywhere from north of 30, east of 75, west of 635, up to Walnut Street, which is at Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
A broad area. So
it's a big area.
We do move around a lot just because of, as you move to one place and you reduce crime here, it's going to shift. So we're constantly just chasing the problem area. We move around quite a bit.
Excellent. What are some of the ways that COVID has impacted you in your job?
So obviously, I don't see the medical side of COVID. We still took the medical precautions as far as face masks and not touching people unnecessarily, which is going to happen occasionally at work. But when COVID really first hit, I was not in CRT at the time, I was in patrol. But I was assigned to a different special assignment, which wasn't a unit, it was just a specific area. So I worked Park Lane, 75, it's called 5 Points, and I worked that area every single day for months. My partner and I were just tasked with that one area we never left. And so we're much more of, although it was targeting crime, it was very high crime, real community policing because it was more effective with juveniles. And one of the issues with COVID, which is very minor, was that there's already a disconnect between citizens and police. So with small children, you're kind of intimidating. And it seemed like simple things like wearing that mask and that distancing, although very important, it kind of kept that disconnect. Because without facial expressions, you look even less friendly than you do already as a police officer. So it was harder, I felt like, if we didn't already know somebody to develop that connection. It's less of an issue in CRT where we're moving so much, but it was definitely, as far as maintain those community connections, COVID has had many lasting effects that have been very negative. That's just one of the minor ones that we see day to day.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. What is one thing that you wish that the public knew about you and your job?
It's kind of a complex question. I would say that I feel like sometimes it may be frustrating. I don't live in Dallas, so I don't know the general citizen feeling, but I would just want citizens to know that despite our response times sometimes or what's going on, that we are making solid efforts to respond to calls and to reduce crime. And I'm sure you know we're fairly short-staffed in a very busy city. And I wish that we don't always have control over all things criminal. You know, we respond to calls and how we make an arrest, we're hands off from the criminal system. And so sometimes when we have these repeat offenders and people are problems for the community, we don't always have the most effective tools to keep them out of the community because we're not involved in sentencing or anything like that. And a lot of times you see the news or communities like, you know, they'll ask, why is this person still out? Because they did blank. Well, I know them, they did blank. Why are they still out? And they think that we're, you know, judge, jury, and everything. And we're a very small part of a big pie. And so, you know, we do everything we can. And I should people understand that we're not, you know, doing things halfway. We're doing everything in our power to keep the citizens safe and make sure they're aware that we're here for them.
When Andrew and I were visiting this week, when I asked him this question, it reminded me of when the officer that was in charge of the DPS task force that was here a year and a half ago, and you know, reminded me of the story about they had a really bad guy down in South Dallas that they arrested 4 times over the course of a couple of months, and the frustration there. So Andrew, it's definitely something that we hear, and as citizens, you know, we know that you guys are doing your best, and it's concerning for us too. And as folks that are fairly active on the political front, we try to remind people that, hey, you know, we have to support the guys that are out there keeping us safe by keeping the bad guys locked up for at least a little bit. So it's definitely something that the public feels your frustration too with that. So my last question, and I'll make sure that this is my last question because Andrew works from 7P to 5A. So he is very excited to be on with us right now at this particular time. That's normally REM time. Is what's something that this club and our members can do to better support the Northeast and DPD?
I know we talked and you mentioned you'd like work with our chairs and some of those things y'all donated and just general support. And I would say, like, people always say, you know, the silent majority supports the police, but when the negative support is so loud, it's always very nice to have such even just little tiny things. Because after a while, that negative can kind of build up, you know. So to have someone being a loud or a verbal support, not just silent, it means a lot to us. Whether it's we come in like kids have brought us some notes or there's snacks in there, someone dropped off Gatorades with a note. All those things are huge for me personally because you can forget pretty quick, you know. There's so much negativity on social media and the news, and you go out and it's just, it can be constant. So to have someone in your corner, whether it's a big thing or a tiny thing, that it all matters quite a bit to us. It's huge.
Well, thank you, sir. Definitely appreciate you this morning. And again, this is where there would be thunderous applause and people standing, but we salute you and congratulations.
Thank you.
So we've got driver engineer Miguel Garcia and officer Andrew Peace, our firefighter and officers of the quarter. With that, I turn it over to Mr. Brown.
Not much, 20 to 30% coverage for the
Excellent.
entire east and northeast, and that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Chances go
you.
for the extended forecast
And thank you and there we go. Thank you and congratulations to our honorees, Driver Engineer Garcia and Officer Peace. We thank you for your service to the community and to our city. And we look forward to seeing you in the future out on the streets. Thanks for being here this morning. Thank you to our guests of our honorees who are with us. Thank you to those who joined to present, Lieutenant Fernando Quintero and Sergeant Valentine. We appreciate your words of support for those that we're honoring this morning. With that, I'm gonna see if Mr. Magoo is able to take the mic and give us a quick update from the city.
Yeah, good morning. Appreciate you, Chris. And thank you, Bill, for just doing a good job of honoring our first responders. I'm reminded as we hear some of the answers and some of the discussion all going on that we are now officially entering a campaign season at City Hall. And there are, the main thing we dealt with this past week, which is somewhat interesting, has been on the vaccine issue. And what's really going on there is you've got still this battle between several of my colleagues and the mayor. And while the county is responsible for almost all of the vaccine issues, the city did go out and get some and have 5,000 vaccines and are looking at different ways to distribute those. But what you start seeing more than anything is this constant battle. And in fact, this morning, there's a press conference with several of my colleagues that are talking again about the vaccine distribution. And it's really just ways to get out in the public as we're leading into this campaign season. And so the part I'm reminded about is there are a number of our city council members that did vote and continue to vote to in separate and different ways to defund our police. And I just think it's important for this club to be involved in those discussions and to make sure you understand who's doing what and what they're doing, and make sure we remind those folks as they enter this campaign time that we don't forget what they've done. This last time, among other things, moving about $31 million. We talked earlier about police and fire raises and some of the things we worked so hard to do over the last several years. And then you see that, 10 of my colleagues voted to take another $7 million out of overtime. And we're seeing now that we're already running over in our overtime budget, which we knew would happen. And so anyway, there's a lot of that going on. I just want to have everybody remain engaged, and where you see folks that have not always supported our first responders, please voice up and be part of that discussion. This week, I spent a couple days in Atlanta. Last week or week before, we had Bruce Deal speak, and it was just an amazing visit with several stakeholders and folks from the community to see City of Refuge there and look at all the options we have as we look at the 12,000 Greenville project. So continue to update you on that. The option did pass at council this past Wednesday, so a lot of things moving forward there. And it's just going to be an interesting season. It always is from the end of January to May when the elections happen. It's for city council. There's going to be a lot of public theatrics. So just please engage. Had a good breakfast with Chris Poteet. Still continue to work and support Chris and his campaign. And I haven't done any big announcement or anything, but as of last Friday, I did file to run again for District 10. This will be my 4th term, hopefully. So would appreciate any support during that process. But thank you again to Bill and the club and everything you're doing this morning. Looking forward to talking to you more.
Excellent, Adam. Thanks for the update. Certainly appreciate that. The information is helpful for us to kind of know where and how to engage. And I would encourage everyone to take advantage of any opportunity that you have in that regard. Let's see. Mr. Bailey informs me that we're going to do a new member induction next week. So Mr. Baisden will be up here introducing us to a lot of new members. And speaking of new members, I didn't see Brent earlier, but now that he's on, I will mention this. Let me find the official notification that I got. as of last week, the Exchange Club of Lake Highlands has earned an award for our recruiting efforts during an Exchange Fits Communities Growth Program. And so the club is going to get an award, a major award, if you will, from the National Exchange. And so congrats to Brent. Appreciate your efforts in keeping the club growing despite the pandemic. So your efforts are being recognized not just here in Lake Highlands, but also by the National Exchange Club. So we look forward to seeing some of those new faces inducted into the club next week. And thank you, Principal Jones, for your comments earlier on updating us on the schools. And I'm trying to look around, anybody jumping in, raising hands. I don't see anyone. Thank you again to our first responders and to our honorees this morning. Congrats and good luck out there. You stay safe, and we appreciate you keeping us safe. And with that, we are adjourned.